we learned what it truly means to be an innovation leader from you. From Accenture to Target to leading innovation at Lowe.
Headed a lot of the corporate innovation arms for these Fortune 100 entities. And then there came a place in life where I felt, why am I continuously working for companies which are headquartered outside of India? There was an option of joining Tesla, but I chose TVS Motor Company.
Why do you think that the auto industry needed innovation like video commerce?
But a very important aspect about auto industry at large is the consumer experience.
It's a very broken journey.
But in the last 5 years, companies have started to explore
Yeah.
how do we provide experience to the consumers where they can consume that content in a more meaningful way. I was asked that how do we get to the consumers? I remember about 4-5 years back thinking about live commerce, and I realized that the first analogy Naptol that we used to see while growing up on TV. You would talk about a particular product on a television screen, and you could just pick up your phone and call them up, right, and order for that.
Yeah, it was such a bold move for you to radically think different on how can I cut down all that and give to the modern consumer that experience on their fingertips using video-based e-commerce. Strategically positioned all those short videos on the high traffic, high intent pages on your website. 37,000 total views, total 4 crore worth of test drive bookings, 200 plus. Almost 30% conversion rate, 37% engagement rate, almost 3,000% ROI.
Amazing.
These numbers are staggering. Hello, Abhay.
Hey, Kazad.
Welcome to the Commerce Connection podcast. I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy to be here. Thank you so much for giving your time.
My pleasure completely. Thank you so much for hosting me.
We have known each other for such a long time. We have had the opportunity, and in fact, my team and I had the fortune of working with you while you were at TVS.
Likewise.
And we learned what it truly means to be an innovation leader from you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's your kind.
Your journey from Accenture to Target to leading innovation at Lowe's and then TVS has been nothing short of inspiring. Tell us more about that. Tell us more about your journey.
Kazad, it's easy to stitch a narrative when you're looking back and trying to figure out and tell people that everything happened as per plan. But to be honest, that was not exactly the way, right? I did my engineering in biotechnology, and I was very sure I wanted to pursue my MS and PhD in human genetics from Clemson in US. I didn't get into it the same year. At the backup offer, I had Accenture, and I thought that I'll come back to reapplying for joining Clemson. But then somehow, once I joined Accenture, I realized that this is also an interesting route that I wanted to pursue, and I ended up continuing at Accenture for a while. Then decided to take a break, do my MBA. I did it from SPJ in Mumbai, then ESSEC in France. And then post MBA, I was living in France, went through recession, came back to India, picked up a job, and actually got into venture capital back in the day.
Oh, wow.
So did that for a period of time, but then there was this, there was something that was bothering me at that point of time as well, which was, how am I creating impact? And back in the day, venture capital was not really creating as much of impact except for the financial investments, right? So moved out of that and joined a startup called Traction. Right, because I wanted to explore the hustle. I wanted to really be in an environment where people are not just, back in the day, investors people would do a salam, right? That, hey, they are investors. There was no balance between an investor and a startup life, right? So I wanted to get into the hustle of a startup, worked in Traction, saw amazing stuff happening there. And then again, I felt that, there's still something missing. And that's what got me into corporate innovation, where the intent was that, is there someone who can pay me my salary, yet pay me money to solve for problems? And the route seemed to be corporate innovation route. So that's when I joined Target. And over the years, I worked across Target, I worked across Anheuser-Busch InBev, Lowe's, headed a lot of the corporate innovation arms for these large entities, right, Fortune 100 entities. And then there came a place in life where I felt that, why am I continuously working for companies which are headquartered somewhere outside of India? And there was an option of potentially joining Tesla back in the day, but I chose TVS Motor Company. Something in me felt like exploring what it takes to work in an Indian organization which is going global and growing pretty well. So I joined TVS Motor Company as the Digital Innovation Officer globally, and that was an exciting journey as well. And it's only been a few months that I have decided to finally move out of the corporate life as a next milestone. I'm building out my own venture as well now.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Very, very exciting journey you have been. I mean, it's always always people like you who are the real innovators at any company, especially when it's a large company. For a larger company, it's very hard to move at a faster pace, unlike a startup does, right?
True.
And in such a company, when there is an innovation leader like you who is able to come up with new ideas, that's what makes a big difference. Why do you think that the auto industry needed innovation like video commerce? And what use cases do you feel could become really successful in this category?
So I think auto industry at large has been a very sluggish industry for a fairly long period of time, right? Which means that they have not really adopted a lot of latest tech. But in the last 5 years, if you see, companies have started to explore some of these things, right? Be it connected services, connected devices, which are capturing a lot of consumer data and helping it personalize or personalizing information flow to the consumers, right? That is one thing that has picked up. Similarly, there are other technologies which are now gradually penetrating the auto space as well, but it's been very slow. But a very important aspect about auto industry at large is the consumer experience. Right, at the end of the day, largely ignored by a lot of auto companies because they feel that we are giving them the best product, which is the hardware product, but there's a lot beyond the hardware product that they need to provide to the consumers. And I was tasked to do the same as well, right? I was asked that how do we get to the consumers the right narrative about what we are selling as a product, what's the vision behind that product, and how do we get them to then purchase those products, and then post-purchase also, how do we keep them engaged? Right? Because it's no longer the case where your product is only your automotive product. There are lots of adjacent products also that are now being purchased or utilized or consumed by the consumers, right? So it's not like you're selling a bike and then next 5-7 years you're not selling anything else to the consumer. There are a lot of other things. There are a lot of other engagements that are happening between the consumer and the automaker. And when I was given this task, to be honest, Kazat, I remember about 4-5 years back thinking about live commerce. I had heard of some early incumbents in China. And I realized that the first analogy that I could think about was Naptol that we used to see while growing up on TV, right? And a bunch of these kind of shows where this was exactly the same, right? You would talk about a particular product on the television screen, and if you liked it, there was a number flashing on the screen. You could just pick up your phone and call them up, right, and order for that. And I realized that there was a lot of dissonance from that model to current model because consumers are not always on TV.
Correct.
Right? They're always on their mobiles. They are on their laptops. They're on the go. How do we provide experience to the consumers where they can consume that content in a more meaningful way? But it doesn't stop there. I mean, you're consuming content, yes, on your mobile, is live streaming happening of events. But what happens then? Again, you are asked to you are being redirected to a website to make purchases. Right? Or sometimes you don't even have a link to be redirected. You're just being told that if this is of interest, then you can go and check out our website later.
Right? It's a very broken journey.
Very broken journey. And that's where I think I stumbled across video commerce as a very interesting consumer experience, where without getting consumers out of their comfort zone or whatever immersed zone that they're already immersed in, they can not just experience the product, they can then actually think about engaging with that product. Right? And engagement could be in the form of a purchase. Engagement is in the form of
booking a test drive.
Exactly, right? There's so many different options. And I think I'll also like to say thanks to Ajay Ramasubramaniam because I remember having this conversation with him and he said, hey, listen, you need to look at Swirl, right? They're doing some amazing stuff in the space. And the first apprehension was, can they do high ticket size items? Because we were talking about a bike called Apache, which is fairly high on the ticket size, right? In terms of price
Almost
points.
2 lakh plus.
2 lakh plus. So I wasn't too sure because the early signs of value that I'd seen in the Indian ecosystem, I was seeing people who were selling very smaller items, ticket size items, right?
Yeah,
maybe
I mean,
sub 1,000 rupees.
I mean,
sub 5,000
being
rupees.
from a traditional industry that has such high touch and feel factor, where the consumer experience has always been, going to the showroom, trying to test drive a bike, getting all the information from a local person over there, and then going back home and then making a decision. Yeah, it was such a bold move for you to radically think different on how can I cut down all that and give to the modern consumer that experience on their fingertips using video based e-commerce, so that when they're ready with an intent to make a purchase, they can share their contact information or pre-book the bike online. I mean, we have had TVS who has managed to get pre-bookings from customers when they launched their Apache RTR, model in India by paying a token amount, whatever 5,000-10,000 doesn't matter. But I mean, who would have thought that, right? It was a very, very revolutionary thought, and kudos to you for coming up with that. But yeah, I would love to know more, about your conviction on what other categories within automobile do you feel we can scale video commerce or brands can take inspiration from?
Right. So I think, when I was initially planning out even the test, right? So one thing that I keep in mind is the scientific approach towards, getting into or testing out any hypothesis, right? The hypothesis was that video commerce will allow us to tap into a category that we were earlier losing out on, right? So that means there could be additional sales, additional bookings, additional sales of even not just the product of Apache, but Apache's merchandise.
Right.
Right? Who knows? People want extra merchandise as well, right? People are fascinated by Apache T-shirts,
Correct. It's
Apache
a community
jackets,
after all.
so on and so forth, right? So, so this is what we wanted to tap in, and basis my assumptions and what I had seen in the industry, some research that I did, we assumed, or our hypothesis was that this will potentially, on a higher side, uplift the number of bookings, pre-bookings, by 5%. And that in itself was, in our head, a very, very strong value proposition.
Yeah.
Right? And the numbers, of course, were very different. They were almost 3x higher than this.
Yeah.
And to our surprise, the ROI is significantly higher as compared to the cost associated with enabling something so simple, yet so powerful. Right? So when I say simple, I think simple from a perspective that, it's right out there. Why are brands not doing it?
Yeah.
And then the funny thing is, Kedar, I remember talking about this at our internal town hall meeting, right? Where I was positioning that this is the first time that TVS has done something like this.
Yeah. And you won an award for that.
Yeah. So I mean, no. So initially the journey was actually very funny, right? So I was immediately informed that no, this is not just TVS. It's actually the first time a two-wheeler company has done this in India.
Absolutely.
I was like, really? And then someone told me that this is the first time in the auto industry in India that someone has done live commerce. And I was like, wow, that's something that I had not imagined. Because I was looking at global counterparts and I knew that there are some initial tries that others globally have tried also as well. And then we applied for India Digital Summit, where we got the first prize, gold prize for innovation in e-commerce.
Yeah.
And most people were very surprised because they were not anticipating TVS Motor Company to win the first prize in innovation in e-commerce.
Let me just call out some numbers.
Yeah, please.
37,000 total views.
Oh, wow.
Total 4 crore worth of test drive bookings, 200 plus. Almost 30% conversion rate, 37% engagement rate, almost 3,000% ROI.
Amazing.
I mean, these numbers are staggering.
Exactly. And the interesting part is that this all happened in a span of 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours, right?
Yeah.
It was not a very extended test. We wanted to just showcase a proof of value, right? That there are early signs of value, which can then be extrapolated into an annual value creation, impact creation scenario, right? And in like 2 working days, we saw this kind of an impact, which was staggering, right? And I think there's no denying that, this has so much more potential. In fact, there's so many other dynamics that you can, or, attributes that can be brought in to video commerce, which we did not even run tests on at that point of time. I mean, you can talk about seasonalities, you can talk about specific campaigns, you can talk about geo-specific models that can be deployed, right? Whereby the system can become so much more efficient that if a company really wants to utilize video commerce as a mechanism, then there are a lot of other traditional mechanisms which will start fading out in terms of the total volume of transactions that you're going to see through video commerce.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I would love to know more about, the whole content strategy that you leverage, both to create short videos and live streaming to launch the RTR bike. Just to take an example, what I observed is, your team was so effective to first create hype using short videos about the launch that is upcoming for RTR,
Right.
and strategically positioned all those short videos on the high traffic, and not just high traffic but high intent pages on your website.
True.
From home page to your category pages, where there is an intent customer with an intent coming to discover products and buy, they were able to find kind of sneak peeks, video, short video format, or like Instagram reel style or TikTok style format videos about the upcoming launch, and register themselves for the live stream, right?
True.
And then when they actually were a part of the live stream, obviously they got prior notification, they were able to join the live stream, and your team couldn't believe the kind of viewership you got,
Yep.
as you rightly said, in the first 24, and hence you got all these results. And then I also saw that after the live stream happened, you were able to kind of use the content from that live stream and repurpose it and create multiple short videos talking about different features of the product of
Exactly.
RTR, mileage, design, all the capabilities, features,
Right.
all of that. So that that whole content strategy really came out beautifully. Would love to know from you, what do you feel was the right? How were you able to strike that right balance between your content strategy, and what content strategy you feel worked well for you during your launch?
Alrighty. So, Kedar, I think I'll have to give credit where credit is due, right? And the credit is also, it goes to Swirl as well, because I remember in the early conversations we did get a lot of inputs from Swirl, because we knew that you had executed this for a bunch of brands, and we wanted to understand that what works and what doesn't. So that was a very good starting point, where we already knew what doesn't work, right? Or what has a higher probability of working out. But at the same time, when we start speaking with our internal brand teams and communication teams, we realized that the whole thing had to be broken down into pre-launch, launch, and post-launch
Correct.
environments, right?
Yeah.
And then there was about the information had to be distributed in an effective way. So of course, from a distribution standpoint, like you clearly mentioned, right, that we knew there are certain properties of ours which had a much stronger traffic patterns that we had seen from historical data. But we also knew that we'll have to think about this from an educational perspective as well. So that is where pre-launch played a very important part. So pre-launch was not just about educating, getting the registrations for from the consumers, but it was also about educating people that this is how you'll be able to utilize what we are building out in terms of our digital experience, and the experience is going to be very differentiated, right? So those short format videos, it's a no-brainer that the consumers' retention is. Attention time span in terms of how they'll be focused on a particular piece of content has gone down quite drastically, right? So you can't give them a 10 minutes video on a product,
Correct.
right? Or
Absolutely.
even if you look at the traditional mechanisms, even digitally, you would have famous influencers talking about the experiences on riding a particular bike or utilizing a particular product, and we felt that instead of having those long format conversations from influencers, maybe we just create short format, TikTok format videos or reels. And we were not even sure, to be honest, before we spoke to Swirl about how do we place this, right? Of course, there was also a bone of contention around placing it on the main page. But that was the one decision that actually drove a lot of traffic, not just at the category level, but at the main page level, because that educated a lot of people, that got them a lot of excitement towards the launch day. And the numbers were very visible, right? And then the second thing is that the integration was fairly simple, which gave us access to a lot of feed data, which could then be repurposed, like you said, right? Because again, post-launch as well, we started getting some conversion numbers already. But then we felt that, how do we leverage this information to, enable customers or consumers to take better decisions? And basis, the viewing data that we saw, viewership data that we saw, we realized that there are certain aspects that consumers potentially needed more information about. And again, analytics from Swirl really helped us. So we were then able to, break it down into product feature-wise specific videos, and we also could from there see further deeper analytics to understand that most consumers are interested in X product feature versus Y product feature versus Z product feature, right?
Yeah. How much time they are spending?
Exactly. How many views, reviews, and so on and so forth. And the third and last piece I think is very important is content distribution from a content loop standpoint, where consumers become our then content distributors as well, right? So they leverage their social channels to push out content too. So this was fantastic, right? I think that whole journey of stitching all these pieces together from a content and distribution standpoint was quite enriching, to be honest.
Very happy to know that you called out the Swirl team for this, because I was just doing a podcast with Vivo team the other day, and they also complimented our team with the same efforts. We've got some incredible experience working with so many brands, and we've figured out the right content distribution / amplification strategy mix that can maximize your chances for conversions, for engagement, and so on and so forth, whatever your campaign objective is. Coming to that campaign objective, we all saw the amazing matrix that TVS achieved. But what I want to kind of focus on is going into this, let's say, experiment as an innovation leader. I'm sure this was not expected, these kind of results, etc. And probably it's probably also not right to expect every single time, because it's a new thing, it's a journey, it's a learning experience, there's a learning curve, it takes time. Going into this, what KPIs and metrics would you want to, or did you expect to get working with Swirl, or integrating video commerce as a key piece of your customer experience strategy? So that's number one. Share some of your thoughts into that, so that anybody who is watching this can manage their expectations better. So that's number one. And second, you spoke very beautifully about the entire purchase journey, from creating awareness to educating the customer to driving consideration and then eventually purchase. We also feel that the best of the marketers, the best of the innovators, the best of the brands out there are always focusing more on top of the funnel and middle of the funnel matrix, because the bottom of the funnel really is a byproduct of that.
Right.
And those funnel matrix get amplified using video commerce, right? So would love to maybe learn a little bit more about your perspective on that as well, on how brands should really think when they are starting out with their video commerce journey.
Sure. So I think, again, it was a very structured journey, right? So from day one of having these conversations with Swirl team, we were able to break down a lot of these metrics very meaningfully, right? Like you mentioned, top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel, there are a lot of dependencies as well. Now it's important to look at this from different lenses. When you think about video commerce's journey to create impact on the bottom of the funnel, yes, video commerce will play an important role, but bottom of the funnel, actual sales, are dependent on a few other attributes as well, right? For example, how strong is your supply side to be able to execute the orders that you have received? Can I blame video commerce for not being able to execute that if your supply side has not been able to execute it? No, I can't. Right? So we had to be mindful of some of these aspects to factor in the kind of metrics that we are looking. And that's why we took a very balanced approach. We were not conservative, we were not aggressive. We took a balanced approach to say that, hey, listen, the first footfall could be the first top of the funnel metric that we should look at. Then if we talk about middle of the funnel, we should look at engagement, right? How many people are consuming that content for how long period of time? How many of them are actually then clicking through an option to make purchase? Because there's this moment of euphoria, there's a launch happening. There's a lot of interest created from the brand side. Consumers are excited about it. Most consumers are lost there. How do they then go on to do something more meaningful?
So you're saying high viewership,
Engagement.
Watch time.
Yeah, watch time.
One is viewership, how many people watched it. Second is watch time, engagement, how much time did they spend.
Exactly.
And third is capturing high intent customer data.
Yes.
That
The
was
CTR,
the core.
click-through rate, where they're actually getting onto,
Right.
clicking the link where they want to now purchase something or show
Right.
some intent, purchase intent. That is the third. But it doesn't stop there. The fourth is then you're talking about which category of product are they actually, are they booking a test ride?
Right.
Are they booking a bike itself?
Or
They're
directly
booking a
paying
ride?
it, making the payment. Yeah.
Right? So they're all parts of the funnel. The final purchase depends upon, like I said, multiple other factors. But the funnel journey is what we saw a big uplift in. Like I said, right, in a balanced approach, my perception was that 5% of the consumers, from an overall traffic standpoint, from the total purchase history purchase data that we'll have, or the number of people who would express the intent to purchase or pre-bookings, 5% of that will come through video commerce, and that was fairly optimistic, I would say.
Yeah.
And of course, like I said, right, it became 3x of that, which was a shocker, right? Because amplification for a new channel felt that 5% was a good enough number, right? As it is a strong number, but 15% was not anticipated. But then we saw the funnel flow, and that's where in a lot of other traditional channels you would see that the funnel flow breaks through. There's a lot of challenges, where a person is looking at some digital content, they're consuming some digital content, but then they drop off at the time of going to the website or actually going to a physical store environment, right, to actually make that purchase. There's a huge drop there. That drop almost evaporated, right? So if you saw, the numbers, there's the percentages of conversion across different stages of the journey, pretty high. And typically in auto, this is where the digital journey breaks. That of the 100% people who are actually consuming the digital data, 1% of them or less than that are actually, figuring out if there's purchase intent. Right, and then 1% of that is then thinking about actual purchase. Right, so there's humongous top of the funnel populace, which doesn't really convert into something more meaningful at the bottom of the funnel. Right. So, and then auto companies are questioned as to why do they not have CDP information, why do they not get the right kind of a data, because there the engagement mechanism itself fails. So here, if you see, engagement also becomes a very important part of the funnel, because if they're engaged, if you're giving them something meaningful, right, in terms of value proposition, then they'll give you accurate data of their own information, personal information they're willing to share with you, which is missing.
And that's what the whole thesis behind Swirl is, that bringing that human touch to digital world, creating that online offline, bridging that online offline gap is where Swirl can really come in and help brands create more authentic connections with the customers.
Exactly.
And because that is not happening, a lot of these traditional industries like auto are unable to scale their digital customer experience or conversions, right? But rather than blaming that nahi ho raha hai, online koi kharidta nahi hai, we need to go to the root cause, kyun nahi ho raha hai wo, and fix them using the whole experience, using a video first approach that we spoke about.
No,
having said that, how do you think can a brand like TVS scale video commerce in the future, especially focusing on the consumer journey? Because there are so many stages, you need to, for example, I need to, I love the bike look and feel, and I've been waiting for it launch, but before I actually write a check, some people are like fans. They have decided they want to buy it. Obviously, they are going to do it immediately. You have created a solid path to purchase for them, using video commerce. But then there are going to be some others who are on the fence and who need a lot of convincing. Convincing about the, let's say, the mileage, for example, convincing about the durability, convincing about the after sales service of the bike, convincing about the warranty, convincing about maybe the turning radius, how sturdy can it be, on long trips, long drives, on maybe, difficult terrains.
Right.
So many of these, do you feel, it's easier to bridge this gap when you're in a showroom talking to a sales guy, because, he's going to tell you everything about it. But how can you really articulate this to a a high intent customer digitally using video and live commerce. Do you feel that this gap can also get filled, and can truly brands or companies in the auto space scale up their video commerce strategy in this manner?
So two assumptions or myths that I would like to address, right, before I get into the exact answer. First is most people perceive that tapping into consumers' emotions at this point of time is called impulse purchase tapping. This is not how I think most customer experience creators should look at it, as impulse purchase, because you're not keeping them in the dark, showing them something flashy and getting them to impulse purchase. You're giving them more information in a more meaningful way, so that they're taking a much more informed purchase decision. Right. So it's not
Correct.
just impulse purchase on euphoria alone.
100%
It is a lot more information, lot more meaningful information that they're getting to
Beautifully
take
said.
informed decisions, right? So that's one. Second thing is the assumption that a salesperson in a physical store environment will be able to answer all your queries in a more meaningful way. I think that's an assumption. Because not everyone is going to be trained at the same level to be able to provide all the information that you need.
Of course.
Right?
But here you can duplicate it infinitely to X number of...
You have more control
N
over
number
the
of
information that
customers,
needs to go out to the consumer in a more meaningful way, in a way that they would understand better.
Yeah.
You'll be able to personalize those experiences a lot better, as against the personalization that a salesperson can do. Maybe the salesperson was having a bad day. There was a high purchase intent consumer in front of him or her, and they were not able to answer all the queries.
And largely that's one of the biggest problems why customers don't end up not buying a product.
Yeah, in fact, sometimes it's misrepresentation of information as well that
Many
happens,
times.
right? Because sometimes you're over excited about selling a product, and the information being provided is exaggerated to a certain degree, and that means the consumer is now going to have a negative NPS towards the product, because they think that this is what we were sold on, but it's actually not true, right? So we need to be very tactical about how we approach customer experience, right? And in my approach, I think the digital approach of having control data go out in a more meaningful way, personalizing the conversation with or engagement with the customer, allows for them to go through a very informed process and decision, and that actually drives much better outcomes both for the consumer as well as the brand who's selling their products.
Did you get any interesting customer feedback when you actually implemented video commerce? Any comments, any feedback that
I think
kind of intrigued you? Okay, wow, I didn't think of this. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think
What was the overall response like, from customers?
So yeah, Kedar, the customer feedback was amazing, right? Of course, we have NPS data to actually give us very hard-coded data points, right, around that. But I think during the launch and post-launch, there were certain aspects that I've noticed, softer nuances, if I can take the liberty of calling it so, which were very interesting to me, right? During the launch, there was a comment section right next to the video feed, right? And in the past editions, I've noticed that if you're on YouTube and these comment sections are being filled, there's a lot of garbled data that comes in, right? I mean, people are just talking about meaningless stuff, right? Sometimes that's, if it is meaningful feedback, I'm willing to take it, whether it's positive or negative.
Right.
But sometimes it's just garbled data, right? But what I noticed was that, there was a sense of thought leadership being created from TVS's perspective, where people were appreciative of a very new and interesting format that was being exposed, right? And I think that plays along with the brand values a lot better for the organization or any large brand, right? Because they want to always showcase that they are more customer centric, they're innovative in their approaches, they're solving for problems, right? And I think just by taking this approach alone, I could see some of those comments coming in saying that, this is very interesting, they've never tried this before.
Correct.
And those softer nuances, which are not really necessarily hard-coded in the form of NPS data, gives you a lot more understanding about how you are being perceived as a brand.
I remember comments, जिसमें one guy was saying कि he was able to secure that exact color of bike that he wanted because of this facility to book online, right, and make a payment. Otherwise, waiting period is so high, and he didn't wanted to go through the whole process of going to the store, walking, waiting in the line, and then book. And I remember another person who who was trying, like, there was this guy who was saying कि यार इसमें और ये दूसरे मॉडल में क्या इतना कुछ फर्क नहीं है, I feel that is better. But then there was like a whole army of people who are trying to convince him कि नहीं, these are the reasons why this is better. So it is like a community getting created on its own. And then third, there was also, I also feel that there were so many other comments wherein people were giving positive feedback के यार मैं तो ये लेने ही वाला हूँ, I really like this, पहले वाले की भी durability बहुत अच्छी थी, काफ़ी लंबा चला था, अब मुझे I've been waiting for this since a long time, I've been saving money for this, काफ़ी सालों से, finally now it's launched, but मुझे इस बार आई एक्सपेक्ट थोड़ा सा बेटर, लेट्स से आफ्टर सेल्स सर्विस, मुझे 3 के बजाय 5 साल की वारंटी चाहिए. तो ये सारे भी आपको इंसाइट्स मिले कस्टमर से डायरेक्टली, जो अभी तक आप डिपेंडेंट थे ऑन डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर्स. राइट. सो डू यू थिंक दिस इज ऑल्सो लाइक अ गेम चेंजर वेयर brands have that ability to have a direct connect with customers, right, which otherwise they did not have that opportunity till now?
I think this is an opportunity for Swirl. Definitely an opportunity for the brands. I would say if this can be flipped into something that the Swirl can provide, Swirl team can provide, as an analytics dashboard, apart from what they're already providing, where there's sentiment analysis done.
We are working on that.
Okay, awesome.
It's already AI powered, and you will be getting that very quickly.
Awesome.
So
because
complete sentiment analysis.
Exactly, right? Because today I think... And that sentiment analysis can then be, given with certain examples. Right. Example statements like these is what we calibrated on, right? This could be very sharp feedback, like you mentioned. I don't know, I missed out on that particular piece. I remember some people saying very positive stuff. I was hoping to get some negative stuff, which was also coming in, right? In terms of, this quality needs to improve or so on and so forth. Which was very important, right? Because more than just the positive stuff, the negative feedback, where the negative meaningful feedback is very critical for the brand, right? Because you're always looking out for that. What is it that consumers are really not happy about? So typically a lot of that gets clouded in noise. Here we were able to see that. Now if that can be further analyzed and put out in form of analytics, then that would be brilliant, right, for brands, because now you'll be having very actionable insights to move from. Because what happens is, no matter how sharp the brand team is, they may or may not be able to go through all the feedback, right? If that can be clustered or bucketed into specific kinds of feedback, product feedback, feature level feedback, and so on and so forth, and insights basis that Swirl can provide, and I think that will just make the life of the enterprise so much easier and create so much more value.
I have a question on this for you. I've seen brands who say that, okay, while all this is great, amazing, I love this, but हमारे पास budget नहीं है. Where do you feel brands should take out budget from to allocate to, let's say, a new innovative channel like this? And how should they go about convincing their, let's say, management or their teams to allocate budget to this? Because, at the end of the day, everybody is operating on a limited budget. Usually the budgets are carved out, beginning of the year, mid of the year, early year, end of the year, doesn't matter. If you come across a new innovative technology like this that you really want to try, especially in a traditional industry like auto, for example, how, where would that budget come from in your opinion? And how should brands think about it?
Right. So I think ideal answer would be the innovation should have a very clear budgets aligned. But then, that really doesn't happen in real world, right? There are some organizations who are definitely more innovatively driven and they have clear budgets, right? And across the organizations that I've worked for, I've seen different levels of budgets being created, right, for innovation. I've also seen organizations where I've had to, internally sell to various teams to carve out budgets from their portfolio rather than me having my own budget to run some of these innovation experiments, right? So, एक बहुत wide range हो जाती है, starting from no budget being allocated and you having to convince different business leaders to actually take out budget, no central budget, to a very strong central budget and strong central alignment to run experiments, and then post that the brands take up the cost of scaling up a particular innovative solution. So वो बहुत बड़ी रेंज देखी मैंने और 4 ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में मैंने डिफरेंट टाइप की चीज़ें देख ली, डिफरेंट मॉडल्स हैव सीन, राइट. हैविंग सेड दैट, इन ऑटोमोटिव ट्रेडिशनल ऑटोमोटिव कंपनी आई वुड से दैट the easiest plug would be sales and marketing. You'd definitely be spending a lot of money in terms of promoting your products, right? And from brand to brand. So there again, there could be central marketing budgets or there could be brand level marketing budgets, right? Each of them could take out some money. Ideal scenario would be a central marketing budget, takes out an annual contract. They draw up a full calendarized event calendarized events of where what needs to be plugged in, how they need to be plugged in, and where video commerce, what messaging needs to go out, what kind of content needs to go out through video commerce, right? So that would be the ideal scenario. Again, if that's not possible, then even at a brand level, right, specifically the mass mass adoption of mass adopting brands, right, where mass consumers are purchasing those brands, in those scenarios, those are the lowest hanging fruits, because anyways consumers, larger cadre of consumers are tapping in. On the other hand, if you are looking at average order value increase, right, that's where you're talking about niche brands which are not selling as much in terms of frequency or number of transactions, but the average order value is high. Apache was a clear case of the latter, right, where the average order value was higher than a 100,000, 150,000, 1.5 lakh rupee bike, right? But then we could see the clear difference in delta there as well, right? 15% additional bookings in that scenario is massive. It's massive in terms of financial delta, right? So this is where I feel that ideally marketing and sales budgets, because both of them are trying to cater to higher demand of the product, higher conversion rates, right? Having said that, in our case, this was a budget that was pulled out from the innovation budget, and that was again lying within the digital ecosystem at large, right? So we were able to run a few experiments, showcase value. The budgets are also not too high. Neither the budget that was being allocated for innovation experiments, nor the budget that it required for us to plug in Swirl as a partner, right? So, but having said that, the ROI is that is where the ROI is
30x ROI.
Massive.
What
exactly.
more could you expect?
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, early signs of value, that kind of ROI. There was a very strong business case that could be extrapolated to say that अगर ये साल भर करते हैं, this is the kind of a financial impact that you can very easily see if you do it more efficiently, more in a more structured way, right? और मुझे ऐसा लगता है कहजात कि ये I know I'm harping on efficiently and structured play बहुत ज़्यादा 2-3 बार बोल चुका हूँ इसके बारे में, पर मुझे लगता है इसके अंदर बहुत ज़्यादा स्कोप है. अगर आप फिगर आउट कर लो ना कि आपके ब्रांड सिनर्जीज क्या है, कंज्यूमर जियो लोकल सिनर्जीज क्या है, और उसके बाद इसको एक एनुअल मैकेनिज्म में डाल दो, इसका इम्पैक्ट मल्टीफोल्ड और बढ़ जाएगा. एज अगेन डूइंग एड हॉक इवेंट्स, राइट. इसको अगर लिंक कर दोगे ना आप, तो इसका इम्पैक्ट बहुत अच्छे से बढ़ेगा, इसकी अडॉप्शन बहुत अच्छे से बढ़ेगी.
100% golden words. This is what we keep saying to all our clients. Extremely important. You can't do this half-heartedly. You can't do this as an experiment. It's like getting married, you have to commit to something if you want to see results, which means committing for an year at least. That's because there will be a learning curve. 6 महीने में तो आप सीखोगे क्या नहीं करना है.
बिल्कुल.
फिर आपको पता चलेगा क्या एक्चुअली करना है.
मतलब run a few experiments ना. Experiments run करने पहले कैसे E.B. करो, experiments run करो, you'll know much better.
कोई भी दुनिया की एक्टिविटी, चाहे ब्रांडिंग हो, चाहे डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन हो, चाहे सोशल मीडिया मार्केटिंग हो, इन्फ्लुएंसर मार्केटिंग हो, it takes time for a brand to get it right. In the same way, video commerce is a new GTM channel. True. It is going to take time for you to figure out, and it's extremely important to commit yourself to it for at least 6 to 12 months. That's when you'll see the real results.
I mean, I would say कि जैसे Swirl के पास already they have a bunch of clients, right, in different categories and sectors. So there's already a playbook, right, that will help. But having said that, जियो स्पेसिफिसिटी में एक एट्रीब्यूट आ जाता है जिसमें डिपेंडेंसी बहुत हो जाती है. आपके खुद के ब्रांड वैल्यूज में प्रोडक्ट में फ़र्क आ जाता है, राइट. आपके कंटेंट स्ट्रैटेजी में फ़र्क आ जाता है. तो उन सब चीज़ों को केटर करने के लिए यू नीड टू लुक एट रनिंग एटलीस्ट अ फ्यू टेस्ट, राइट. ए बी करो उन पे, figure out what's working out, and then double down on those tests. Because then you see the maximum value. I mean, even in the test which is not working very efficiently, will still give you a good ROI. It's not that it's failing.
I mean, we have had customers, like Vivo, who have dedicated, live commerce account executives in their team who only
That's
do
amazing.
video commerce, right? And they have credited a large part of their success to Swirl.
Right.
because they've been with us for 2 years. I mean, you will not believe, last financial year, almost they were able to potentially generate about 77 crore of GMV.
Oh, nice.
And last month, they did 60 crores.
Oh, wow.
So the growth has been incredible, right?
Exactly.
And that's what I feel, because they committed themselves to it. It's been 2 years now. For the first 6 months, they were doing not even lakhs, right? So 100% I believe with what you're saying. But having said that, what is your what would be your overall feedback working with Swirl? How was your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you. That clearly shows that it was a fantastic feedback. I mean, a fantastic experience, right? I think the biggest acknowledgement. See, I've already spoken about the technology part of it. I've already spoken about how it's impacted from a financial or business outcome standpoint, right? So, वो सब तो है ही है. But I think one thing that I would want to categorically call out is the ease of working with the team, right? When you're working with large legacy organizations, the challenges in terms of adoption, the challenges in terms of long decision-making cycles, right? And that is where I think it was much easier to work with Swirl, because every time I would speak with your team members and I would tell them, to kind of build on a business case that I have to sell internally about taking this decision and getting a particular bike to be launched and be a part of this content loop, I need this information. They were very patient in giving me that information very, very quickly. They were able to jump onto those calls and talk to us about things that worked, things that did not work. Those are when you think about that kind of information flow, most people would call it intangible, but actually those are very tangible metrics in some sense of it to look at, which really helped us move in a direction which had more meaningful positive outcomes, right? नहीं तो वो कई बार आप उसी लूप में फंस जाते हो और वो बड़ी प्रॉब्लम हो जाती है, बिकॉज वहाँ पे अगर स्पीड नहीं है team to provide you with information that can help you take better, faster decisions, then that becomes a challenge. And being subject matter experts at Swirl, you were able to provide that data points to us very comfortably, very conveniently, and still have patience, right, in terms of our decision to come through. I remember it took us, I think, almost 2 months before we were able to, 2 to 3 months to take a final decision on this.
Yeah, almost 3 months.
3 months lag gaye the. And I don't think so there was ever a conversation where there was any lack of patience there. In fact, every time I would get into a conversation, there were more data points that were kind of indicative of why this would work out for us and how this could be more meaningful.
There's been something internally that I've been sharing with my team, almost trying to build this culture that don't think of ourselves as a SaaS company, typical SaaS company, which is like software as a service.
Right.
Think of us as outcome as a service company.
That's a fantastic.
And in order to create an outcome, we need a very solid combination of having the best-in-class product followed by the best-in-class service. And that service is going above and beyond to help our clients achieve their outcome. Whether it is helping them to create an internal business case or giving them the right feedback in a timely manner to communicate and articulate with their internal and external teams to create their learning curve, get the learning curve to the next level, or whether it is implementation and bringing all the industry learning so that they succeed faster.
True.
So happy to hear that you were able to feel the same.
So I would like to put it in a more candid way. हवाबाजी नहीं थी. I mean, a lot of SaaS startups, right, when they're talking about their products or solutions, right?
Right.
There's a lot of havabazi. I think good thing was that we did not go through that kind of a thing कि जिसमें मुझे noise को filter out करना पड़ रहा था. जो दिख रहा है वो है, जो है उसको हम better explain कर रहे हैं. So this is how the conversation was going to and fro, which meant that for me also to understand the value proposition, it was fairly simple. I was already sold on live commerce, but I was able to understand the nuances that Swirl was adding. तो वो बात काफी तेजी से आगे बढ़ रही थी in my head. And then I think in the first or second meeting itself, I said it's a no-brainer. Let's do this.
Yeah.
I'll just have to figure out how do we align this internally with the right kind of product and the brands associated internally. But I think that is very appreciable. वो हवाबाजी कई बार ना eats into a lot of time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's the ecosystem that we live in कि हवाबाजी बहुत होती है.
No, that's true. There's a lot of noise out there.
Yep.
Important to cut through. And being an innovation leader, having worked all these years with so many amazing companies, then TVS, and now finally you are getting into operator, founder role, something that as you, and I remember during our conversations has always been at the back of your head. You always wanted to do something really meaningful. And with Monet, you're doing this. And I will come to that. I want to talk more about what you're doing right now and how it's going to, transform the entire industry. Tell me, what other new age technologies should consumer brands today also leverage besides video commerce?
I think there are multiple that I think of, right? See, ideally, if you're trying to resolve problems across the customer journey, there are few aspects that I think that could be really worked upon, right? One is data ownership. Who owns the data? How do they use that data? Are very important questions. I think, and if I can be candid, I'll say this out loud. Brands को लगता है कि it's their inherent right कि सारा डेटा हमारा है, हमने खरीदा हुआ है, मतलब हमारा ही है. कंज्यूमर डेटा क्या होता है? हमारा डेटा है. कंज्यूमर डेटा इज आवर ओन डेटा, which is not true.
Right.
It's the consumer's data. That's what it's called, consumer data.
GDPR वाले
Right.
बजा देंगे.
Exactly. I mean,
सुनेंगे तो.
वो consumer data can be licensed from the consumers.
Correct. It's their
I mean, it doesn't really matter to the consumers कि कितने पैसे में उनको देना पड़ रहा है. They're happy if they are opting into giving out their data. So I think that's a big problem to solve for. Second problem that needs to be solved for is personalization. How do you personalize experiences for consumers at an individual level, at a geo-local level, at a category level, and so on and so forth, right? So उसमें भी there's a lot of scope that needs to that can be done, right? I think so. Apart from video commerce, I think Gen AI is an important and very interesting technology that we should factor in because it allows for a lot of personalization to happen. From a data ownership, data security, data privacy standpoint, I would say blockchain is a very important component as a technology that through its fundamental tenets will bring about a massive change in how we look at data today, right? And the data security as well. I mean, we have heard so many cases about data loss.
Yeah.
Because of data hacks and so on and so forth. Put it on a blockchain, make it decentralized, right? So the consumers own their own data, brands can use their data if their consumers opt in, and so on and so forth, right? So there are
that's
these
a
kind of
massive
technologies.
problem you're already solving with Monet. Tell
Yes.
us how you're doing this and how it can unlock value for both brands and consumers.
Sure. So at Monet, we realized that there was again a customer experience problem, consumer experience problem, right, that we were trying to solve for. The consumer experience problem was that, you think that consumers are shopping from certain platforms and जितना वो वहाँ पे शॉप कर रहे हैं उतना ही वो शॉप कर रहे हैं. That is why, for example, even in India, you think that, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 में एक certain amount of capability है in terms of their consumption capabilities or their spending capabilities, right? That's not true. The fundamental problem is that not every platform cannot provide you everything that you need. आज मुझे, if I want to shop from a large e-commerce marketplace, apparel marketplace, I can shop the apparel from there. But if I have to go to the gym tomorrow, I have to go to a Gold Gym or a Cult Fit website, right, to purchase there. If I have to watch a movie, I'll go to a Book My Show and purchase the ticket from there. If I have to go and book a hotel, then I'll go to booking.com or make my trip, right? So हर एक चीज़ की अलग चीज़ है. I mean, I can't order for a coffee from an H&M website, right? Right? So, or if physically I'm traveling there. So this is the problem that we are thinking that we are actually trying to solve for. The problem here is interoperability of loyalty ecosystem. Rewards through personalizations can happen through loyalty programs, but loyalty programs are over-abused, underutilized.
Correct.
And that is where we are trying to build a...
Everybody has their own. It's such
They have
a
their own
headache
programs.
to remember.
They're not
how many
personalized.
cards will I keep in my wallet? I mean, so
Exactly.
many loyalty cards. Every time they ask, I have to take it out and give it to them. I don't even remember.
Starbucks
I really
ka
wish I could trade my loyalty points for something I want to buy.
Exactly. I mean, it's a funny fact out there which says that 87% of the consumers who are part of loyalty programs don't end up redeeming more than 15 to 20% of their points.
Wow, really?
हाँ. तो ROI क्या आ रहा है brands को? There's hardly any ROI over there then, right? How do you generate
जो
meaningful
loyalty
ROI?
purpose है जिसके लिए points बनाए हैं ना वो achieve हो रहा है मतलब रिपीट सेल्स भी नहीं हो रहा है, एक्विजिशंस भी नहीं हो रहे, और डिस्कवरी तो भूल ही जाओ, नए ब्रांड्स तो डिस्कवरी नहीं कर पा रहे, नए प्रोडक्ट्स भी नहीं.
एग्जैक्टली कई बार तो लोग भूल ही जाते हैं कि पॉइंट्स पड़े हुए हैं उनके पास, राइट?
हाँ, मतलब
बिकॉज वो पर्सनलाइज नहीं है. पर्सनलाइज नहीं है तो वाई विल आई बी इवन बॉदर्ड अबाउट मेरे पास इतने सारे पॉइंट्स इस 10 ब्रांड्स के पड़े हुए हैं. This is what we are trying to solve for, but what we are, and it's not that this being attempted for the first time. What we are trying to do is we are ensuring that it's AI powered. Very easy to say AI powered, but I'm talking about a lot of very meaningful nudges and recommendations. We are also talking about everything being built on blockchain.
Yeah.
Which means that the data privacy is being highly secure, right? Brands don't have to be worried about personal information of the consumers. Right? Consumers don't have to be worried about inefficiencies in the system. They're able to convert points, so obviously it becomes much more seamless for them. Brands have higher product discovery, brands have higher engagement and retention, brands have much more reduced CAC, which is very important for them. Apart from that, they have a lot more consumer insights, and then on top of that, there's cashback. And cashback is being provided because we built it on blockchain as an ecosystem. So uske wajah se hamara unit economics become much more positive, and that allows us to push back money into the ecosystem for the brands. Right? And that I think is going to solve for or disrupt the way we are looking at loyalty as an ecosystem and rewards as an ecosystem.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of what you're doing, because I think for consumer this is going to be game changing. And significantly more game changing for brands. Maybe, just to keep it simple, you can explain and walk us through the journey of a consumer, like, how can I leverage Monet to unlock value for me? Do I have to download an app, and then should I just start discovering brands and redeem my points over there? Like what's going to happen for a consumer?
So I think there are two ways to look at it, right? One is the app mechanism. Think of credit as an example, right? Credit में आप जाते हो, you can see कौन से आपके credit cards है, उसके क्या scores है, right? So that's one way of doing it. The other is that at the payment level itself, you're able to use purchase via credit.
Right, so that
use
is
credit
the
coins.
B2B integration will get done with brands.
Yes, so we are building, our product launch is going to take another 2 months or a month and a half to 2 months, 6 to 8 weeks from now. So in the meanwhile, we have started building a waitlist of brands. There are quite a lot of D2C brands that we've already waitlisted on the platform, and we'll launch it in about 6 to 8 weeks from now. So if there are brands who are interested in partnering with us, they're more than happy. I mean, I'll be more than happy to have a chat with them and bring them on board. But from a consumer lens standpoint, it's a very fairly frictionless journey. What we are trying to do is they don't have to worry about पीछे से at the back end, what is the swapping mechanism. All they have to care about is if there's an integration on the B2B side, on the brand side, when at the brand level they want to make a purchase, they can say connect with Monet, and Monet is able to smartly identify which are the points which are about to expire in their kitty from whichever other brand, and they're going to convert that using smart contracts, right, where we already know the converting ratios.
Yeah.
तो उनको फर्क ही नहीं पड़ रहा. Think of as a razor pay pop-up that happens at the time of purchase, कि वो वहाँ पे सीधा वहाँ पे convert हो रहा है और you're making a frictionless payment. On the other side, if you are very conscious about which brands you want to convert the points from, then you can go to our app, and on the app you can then choose that I know that tomorrow I'm going to be going to Leela Palace.
Right.
वहाँ पे मेरे को अपनी फैमिली को डिनर पे लेके जाना है, वहाँ पे I want to use the points, तो मैं पहले से जाके वहाँ पे कन्वर्ट कर रहा हूँ, और I know that I want to book a expensive trip to Europe, तो मुझे make my trip के points चाहिए पहले से ही. So then मैं पहले से फिर then I'm going to the app and then you choosing कि मुझे H&M के, Flipkart के, Myntra के और XYZ के points convert करने हैं to make my trip points.
Wow, amazing.
So then I can do it that way as well, right? So it provides the flexibility on both the fronts.
कार्ड कस्टमर क्रेडिट कार्ड, मेरे जो भी वो इजी रिवॉर्ड्स के पॉइंट्स है वो मैं कहीं पर भी सिर्फ HDFC के टाइप्स वाले ब्रांड्स के साथ यूज़ करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. आई कैन नाउ कम टू मोनेट, यूज दोज पॉइंट्स, इफ मोनेट हैज़ अ टाइप विद HDFC बैंक, विच इट विल, आई एम श्योर वेरी सून.
It will soon, yes.
And now I can redeem it to, let's say, for a Goa vacation that I want to take, or to maybe buy a gift for my wife.
True.
And that's
amazing. It's interesting to think of it this way कि eventual goal would be
customer acquisition भी हो गया वो brands के.
बिल्कुल. Customer acquisition at a very low cost.
Fraction of a cost.
Fraction of a cost, right? You're talking about 1/25th of the current CAC. That's how low. I'm 5% of the current CAC is what I'm talking about, right? So it's big value and for these new age brands, D2C brands, to be listed on the platform, because there's no cost associated with them for them, right? Upfront cost. तो काफ़ी फ़ायदा consumers का, काफ़ी फ़ायदा brands का. And I think our vision eventually is to see that, you know, and talking on behalf of ITC, for example, कि you go to a pan dabba and you're buying cigarettes over there, even if you're buying a single loose cigarette, there could be loyalty points earned on that as well. Right? So that's the vision of
Wow.
eventually going
Insane.
full steam into it, right?
Yeah.
Where everything, all your transactions are linked to loyalty points or loyalty programs and loyalty form factors,
As it should be.
as it should be.
Yeah, this is very, very exciting. Wishing you all the best in this
Thank
journey.
you so much.
And from our side, we will ensure that, you know, whenever this product launch is happening, we are also resharing it with all our customers, more than
Thank you.
100 plus across US, India, Middle East, and Europe. And we'll encourage everybody to be a part of this amazing product that you're building. But thank you so much for giving us your time today, Abhay. It was a real pleasure.
Pleasure. Always love the candid conversations that we share. Thank you so much, Kaizad.
And I hope we can do this again as well.
For sure. Looking
All
forward.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.